Hello, my name is Colin Patterson, and welcome to my debate and my slideshow on neo-Malthusian theory versus the technocentrism theory. The neo-Malthusian theory is the concern that overpopulation as well as overconsumption may increase the resources depletion rate and ultimately lead to our demise in the long run. If we look at this graph and see that our resources grow at a linear rate and people grow at a exponential rate, then once we pass this point, we won't be able to supply for people past here, and we will forget about some people, and it'll be a much lower quality of life for everyone. Technocentrism theory is the belief that technology is a central component fixing problems on the earth, and that we will always adapt to make our earth better and more suitable because we're constantly evolving. Overall, my opinion on the topic is that overpopulation is a real issue, and I agree with neo-Malthusian theory. As proved by other regions on this planet already and other different species we've seen in the past, we've seen what happens to ecosystems and what overpopulation does to other places on the earth too. If we look at India and China, just for example, we can see what happens and what we're at risk of if the rest of the earth ends up like that. Overpopulation is harmful for a ton of different reasons, but arguably the most common and most popular one is the fear of running out of natural resources like food, water, and all of our essential needs. Even if we are able to solve some of those issues, such as hunting more, creating more food, or creating more houses for people, then we are destroying our ecosystem while we're doing that. And all of those issues will lead to shortages, inflation, and a ton of more problems that will occur in our day-to-day life that we don't have to deal with now. Let's take a look at China's population rate over the years, as we mentioned earlier. As we see in 1953 to 1982, China had a very exponential growth until they started putting laws and implementing rules based off you can only have one kid and changing the ratio of men and women being born. So let's take a look at what this huge inflation of people caused to China over the past few years. So to start off, it has had a huge toll on its environmental damage. China's population it has led to tons of environmental damage, including pollution, water shortages, and ultimately a loss of a lot of land. It also taken a huge economic strain on them. With the population growth, the ability or the government loses the ability to take care of everyone how they are meant to, with everything getting too chaotic and losing track of people. It is not, they haven't been able to improve living conditions, which is the main point of the government. There's also tons of health concerns, such as diseases and other things that break out with population on the rise. And then social concerns is also a big one, with many men not going to be able to be married in the long run, which is China's goal actually, which, so as sad as that sounds, it's working out for them. Next, let's take a look at India's population over the years. If we see China and India kind of had a different run at it, where China really expanded over here and then implemented laws down here from 1950s or 1980s on to change this exponential growth that China had, which is now a theme in India. So starting here was extremely linear, and then as we see from 1951 till now, it picks up from 361 million people to 1.2 billion people in just 60 years versus the 50 years here it goes up to 100 million. They improve 100 million, which is a very big exponential rate, which is not good for the environment. India's overpopulation problem has taken some different tolls than what China had to experience. So, number one is poverty. India has the fourth highest poverty rate in the world because of its overpopulation, resulting in a lack of jobs and overall no food or money for a lot of people. This poverty leads to a lot of inequality, meaning the top 1% get richer when the rich get richer, and the bottom 90 to 95% become poorer because they're completely forgotten about. There's so many people to take care of, and if, yeah, And the biggest, or arguably the most common or biggest one right now, is overfishing because it's taking a huge toll on our ecosystem. Not only is it harming them, but it's harming the rest of our Earth with destroying food chains and ultimately could lead to a lot of animals' extinctions. Another very big one was waterborne diseases. Tons of chemicals and fertilizers that India tried using to keep up with the growing population rate ended up biting them in the foot and just ended up backfiring them. And especially with the population, as in China, stuff spreads a lot faster when you have a billion people in your country. Overall, it's clear that overpopulation is a serious issue, with firsthand examples all around the world to show you how big of an issue it really is. If we don't keep the Earth's population at a steady rate, as mentioned earlier, everyone would experience a depletion of available resources like food, shelter, housing, and it would create a sufflux in competition, resulting in weaker individuals, lots higher disease rates, and ultimately population crashes. Thank you.